is actually was a huge campaign, and they have a new one out now. And that was done a couple of years ago. They have like a whole new one. I invite you to go look at it. But that was professionally done, so it's sort of on a different level. But I wanted to show like a wide range just to give you a sense of what is possible out there and the kinds of tools to start thinking about using different kinds of tools to get stories across. I think I'll show one more. Where is it? Here. Is that going to play? This also was made a few years ago. Start thinking, have a look at how this is made, the choice of shots or the choice, because it's very simple, again, with a powerful message.
I didn't think that I had anyone to talk to about what was going on in my life. All the bad things, all the feelings I had from
If that's going to be like that, that's not
myself, just normal teenage feelings. So I just met someone online that I didn't know, and he said that basically the grass was greener on his side. I first met him on one of
Well, maybe just hold on to that for a sec.
the private chat rooms where you just talk to like so many people, and then I would make my own, and then we talk from there. And that progressed for about a month. Well, I knew from the start that he was how old he was. I didn't even think that we'd have a relationship. He was like a stranger, and you can tell stranger things that you're never going to meet, stuff that you couldn't tell your friends. He was saying you're not worthless, you know, you can come over here, I'll take care of you until you can, you know, basically take care of yourself, and you won't have to deal with that anymore. And I just thought that was so much better than staying where I was. The second time I ran away, I didn't want to, but I knew if I didn't, there might be like a little more trouble, because he came to my house, and I get this call from someone else that he talked to online, and she said that he was outside waiting for me. Told my mom I was going to go out for a walk for a little while, and then I took off. I would rather went to my friends, which would have accepted, because I didn't know at the time that most of them were going through the same thing I was. I was gone for, it was about 2 days, and they caught us at another bus terminal. They finally charged him with taking a minor over state lines, and he's right now sitting in prison. It was scary because he called me, because then he knew where I lived. He knew what my phone number was, so when he gets out of prison, he could just call me right back again and start this all over again. Well, he said he'd done it before, but he never got caught. So the only thing that's in my mind is, where are they at? Where were the past people that he's met before? If you say that it's not going to happen to you, and you keep progressing more and more, then it's eventually going to happen to you, whether you want it to or not, because you never know who that person is or what that person's capable of, because he could one day just show up, or he or she show up at your doorstep just waiting for you. When you're getting over your head, you're thinking, oh no, my parents will know what I'm doing. I can't tell them, they'll get mad, I'll get in trouble. Well, don't think of it like that. Think of it as, if you keep talking to this person over the internet, you don't know.
Okay, I'm going to stop it. I think you get the idea. And one more I'm going to show before we have a talk about them. This is from the bicycle portraits. The bicycle portraits. People heard of this one? Seen this one? Really nice. In South Africa, they used this site called Kickstarter to raise money to make a book. And the book was really about getting bicycles more used. You know, the authors noticed that there weren't a lot of bicycles being used for transport, oddly enough, in a place like South Africa. And sort of they tried to advocate bicycle use and cut down pollution in the cities and everything. So they went across the country, and they actually got people to submit portraits of bicycles, and they raised money through Kickstarter to make their book, and there's their book. And I think they're making a second one now. It's a hugely successful project. You can see they were using all the social media, Twitter and Facebook, to help move their campaign along. Very simple, you know, not huge amounts of money, but very successful. And I'm not going to play the video because we're a bit short on time. I invite you all the resources for all of these things will be in this PowerPoint, which is available online, so go check them out. What is one thing that is in common with all of these stories that we've seen? Do we have any ideas on some of the commonalities between the videos? No?
Oh, they're direct. They're person to person.
They're direct. How do they make us feel?
Engaged, interested.
They're very emotional, aren't they? They kind of really tug at our heartstrings. They're really, you know, and that's something key about making media. You know, we were talking before about your organization and introducing your board members and everything. That's great, but it has to be something, you have to really think about your audience and why would they be interested in that unless you can make it really engaging and interesting. So that's probably one of the most important things when you're working with stories. It's just like sitting around the campfire. If you're telling a story, it's got to be engaging. You've got to find the mechanisms that will pull people in. You saw the Girl Effect one. They're professional, you know, filmmakers and people who work with that, so they know all the tricks. But if you start to think about this as you're, hello, they're coming to get us. As you're consuming media, start thinking about how are they using emotional factors, what kind of shots are they using, what kind of language are they using that is sucking me in? Because, you know, we all do. I mean, you know, I'll openly weep at commercials if they're well done, but, you know, there are very well-known tricks of the trade in order to get us in. So that's really important when we're thinking about our stories. Oops. Next. Okay, here's another one. I'm not going to go into it, but just to give you an example, this is a group we worked with from Sioux Lookout, actually, and it's on Citizen Shift. Really small organization, no background in media creation whatsoever. Women with children with FASD, fetal alcohol syndrome, right? So they went out and did with just audio recorders. They went and talked to the women and did audio voiceovers with photographs. And they put them together. We actually helped them put them together because this was a few years ago and there weren't as many tools available, simple tools, as there are even now. So we helped them. We hooked them up with an editor who actually made a little video from their slides and their voice recordings, and they put it up on Citizen Shift, and they have like 25,000 views on it now. And this little video, not professional, really slow paced, has become their voice piece. And these women are now invited all over to conferences and to talk about you know, their situation and how they deal with it, and you know, really deep and heavy issues around fetal alcohol syndrome. So it's through this video that they became known across Canada and even internationally for something, you know, that you wouldn't really associate video production with, you know, social issues such as this. Okay, the production process. So you've got your group, you're ready to do some media production. What do you do? It's a big, sort of complicated thing. It seems like it doesn't really have to be. You can break it down into pretty simple steps. And the important thing is really just to try it out, to just go and do it. And a lot of people, especially teachers, when we talk about using technology in the classrooms and even for organizations, there's this kind of fear factor. Like, oh, I don't know how to use technology, and you know, my students know this way better, and I'm going to look stupid in front of them, and I don't want to do that. When I talk to educational theorists, the way they get around this sort of thing is, okay, you know the what and the why, what you want to do, why you want to do it. Get your students or you know, young people in your organization to do the how. They know how. So if you work at it as a kind of collaborative approach right off the bat, you can drop those fears. Don't even do the technical stuff. Assign right away. Say, you're good at camera? Great. You're the camera person. You're good at online editing? Great. You know, so the important thing is, just because you're tech savvy doesn't necessarily mean you're media savvy or media literate. So it's important not to confuse those things. The tech is just one aspect of it. It's just about mastering the tools, which everyone can learn with a bit of practice, really. But if you don't feel comfortable with it, just delegate it to somebody who does. Okay, so different steps within the process: scripting, storyboarding, shooting, editing, sharing. I would say probably the most important one is the scripting, storyboarding. It's coming up with your idea. And I just stuck this in there. Great resource. Make Internet TV. It really spells it out for you. Again, all these will be available at the end. So here's your scripting sort of diagram. We were talking before about emotional response and timelines and thinking about story mapping. So often what makes a story interesting is a story arc, right? There's a beginning, middle, and end. And even if they don't come, like nowadays we're really mixing it up, even if it doesn't come in that sequence, you usually have some sort of conflict, some kind of working it out, and some sort of resolution. May not be in that order, again, but that's usually how a story is put together. And we're kind of hardwired to understand stories in those ways. So when you're thinking about your shots, and I'll just show you this, because this is a little tool that you can download just to start to put together your storyboard. So when you start thinking about it, think creatively. Think about some of those examples that we saw. If you're doing a historical piece, you're talking about your grandfather or something, maybe you don't have archival footage on that. How do you recreate that? You can use maybe one photograph with, fading in and out. You can use other footage that you might have. You can use text. Sound is really important. What kind of music are you going to lay over that? If you're looking for footage, there's all kinds of image repositories out there. Be careful, especially in organizations and you want to publish this, you have to avoid copyright materials. Don't use Mickey Mouse. Disney will be after you. But there are repositories out there, lots of them, and I'll list them at the back here, where you can find copyright-free materials. Music, sound effects, images of all kinds. There's lots out there, so just go looking and you'll find things that you can use. Think about your narration. Very often digital stories are narrated. Even if you have a strong storyteller, you can just record them telling their story and then work with that as your baseline and add your visual elements on top of it. Oops. Again, that's a very handy tool for mapping out your shots. Good to use different kinds of shots also. I think I mentioned here medium shots, close-ups. A lot of us are kind of familiar with this now. You don't have to go to film school anymore. We know the language of cinema. We know what a close-up looks like, what an establishing shot looks like. But there's tons of resources available online to help familiarize yourself with some of those. B-roll, like other kinds of things outside the main action. Like if I was going to shoot B-roll of this conference, I might shoot in the plenary room. I might shoot a little bit, just to add a little bit of context that you can edit in with afterwards. If it's in your home, you might want to shoot, the living room, an important array of, candlesticks or something, just to add a little bit of extra. Okay, there's a lot of stuff here about shooting when you get into it. These are a couple of cameras that I have suggested, just because I've worked with them and they're fun. The little flip cams that you can get very inexpensively now. They're the ones that are internet ready, so you can shoot quite good image quality with them now, plug them right into your computer, download the stuff, and work with it immediately. They're quite inexpensive, for under $200. The Kodak ZI-8 is under $200. It's an excellent camera. It has external sound, which is very important. Again, I wrote that in here. You can't underestimate good sound. If you have a bunch of youth talking and the sound is on the camera, you can't even understand them, footage is pretty much useless, even though it may be really excellent shots. You had a question?
I had a question about outside shooting, because we had a microphone